very grateful and very happy to be with all of you. Gita's beautiful chapel in Sandiego. Thank you, Mahatattva Prabhu, for opening the doors of your heart to invite me.
Open this door too.
I was indicating that. So many very dear friends. Seeing you all, I am very speechless. Because I've been ordered to speak. Today, while driving with my very dear god sister Kanka Devi, she played for me a CD on her stereo system and told me I should speak on this subject. The CD was very unique, I never heard it. It was Srila Prabhupada in London, I believe 1969, at the estate of John Lennon. And he was speaking to John Lennon, Yoko Ono, George Harrison, Patty Boyd, and the Beatles. And Prabhupada was beautifully telling how music has the power to elevate one's consciousness to the highest perfection. It's very interesting because the meaning of compassion is to actually connect to people and present the truth about the eternal soul's eternal relationship, the absolute truth of Krishna, in a way that's relevant to what people are speaking to. So the Beatles happen to be the topmost musicians on the planet at that time. And Srila Prabhupada was telling them about the topmost type of music and how simply through music, through singing, through beautiful melodies, one could connect to the highest perfection of yoga. And that is the origin of music. If we see from a classical perspective, initially all music was for the church in the West. In the East, all the thousands of different variations of ragas, they were all specifically meant to elevate one's consciousness, to reconnect it with God or with Bhagavan. And modern music, jazz, rock and roll, and all this blues, most of its origin is in gospel music, which was people who were really suffering, crying out from their heart of hearts for the grace of God. Of course, and as society goes through its transformations, we may substitute different motivations and different means and different purposes. But essentially, music is based on the yearning of the soul to love God and to feel the love of God. And we can take that same energy and repose it in a man or a woman or a thing or things. But the original purpose of music is yoga, to reconnect. And he was explaining, you are great musicians. Utilize your incredible God-given talents of music to bring yourself greater to the true fulfillment of life, love of God, and help others, inspire others to do the same. Then Srila Prabhupada started to sing. He was giving examples. He said the Bhagavad Gita is the song of God. Gita literally means song. And he said Bhagavad Gita is not spoken, it is sung. Krishna sang the Gita. And when pundits, even to this day, read the Gita, it is sung in beautiful ragas. And similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam was sung by Sukadeva Goswami. And all the Vedic literatures were sung. Music is like a vehicle that can take divine message and transport it deep into the core of our hearts, and can empower us to take that divine message and invest it, transport it within the core of the hearts of others. Just yesterday I was with my dear godbrother Bharadraj Prabhu, who was one of the original artists of the ISKCON movement. And he was telling me very early on how Srila Prabhupada was explaining we have a philosophy, but not that many people will be able to really focus their mind on philosophy. But through art, through music, through culture, we can fascinate people by attracting them to understand these basic principles. And the word mantra means a sound vibration which liberates the mind from illusion. That illusion is the cause of anxiety, suffering, and we all know what the mind could do. Yato nishchalati manaschanchalam ashtaram. The mind is wandering here and there in so many places. How to control the mind? The tendency of the mind is if everything is going really nicely, if a million things are going nicely, and one thing goes wrong, what does the mind focus on? One thing that goes wrong. Because the nature of this world is pain is more acute than pleasure on the physical plane. Just like if your body's really happy and healthy and nice, and a thorn goes in your foot. Now, 99.9% of your body is nice. How much space does a thorn go into your body? Like this, right? But where is your entire attention? When it goes deep in your foot, because I've had a lot of those thorns. You don't think the left finger of my right, the little finger of my right hand feels so good? And the smell of these flowers is so nice. And my eye is so healthy today. All we're thinking about is this little pinpoint where there's pain. And it consumes us. Because the mind rushes to those things. So how to actually find fulfillment? Because actually, so nice to see you, Mr. Kurubadi. Come on, be nice to see. Mantra is that which gives us a deeper, greater fulfillment. Because ultimately, the only thing that can really make us transcendental to the sorrows and the joys, the honor and dishonor, happiness and distress, pleasure and pain, success and failure, victory and defeat, this whole world is dualities. Prabhupada said it was like two sides of a coin. There's heads and tails. If you want to be happy, then you should understand the coin is going to flip over in the course of time. And there's going to be distress. We like to be honored, but then dishonor will come. So how to rise above these dualities and actually find real peace of mind, real satisfaction? The Gita tells us, Vishayavam vartante niraharasya dehena rasavadajam rasopyasya param kristvani vartate. That one can easily transcend all of these temporary dualities of this world when one experiences a higher fulfillment. Mantra is music, spiritual sound vibration that awakens from within our heart a higher fulfillment, ultimately ananda. Lord Chaitanya taught how this chanting of God's names of mantra works in his Shikshastakam. Chaito Daraparamarujanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. The mind is compared to a mirror. When you look in a mirror, you're supposed to see yourself. But if the mirror is covered by layers and layers of dust and pollution, all you see is dust and pollution. But this beautiful sound vibration, this music of God's names and glories, it cleanses the mirror of the mind. Cleanses it of our selfish passions, our arrogant egoism, our anger, our greed, our envy, and our ignorance. And when those things are cleansed, we begin to see ourselves. And who are we? Lord Chaitanya explained the first principle of real spiritual life is Jivara Swarupa Krishna Hridityatas. That we're all eternal servants of Krishna, or God. Nachayate mriyate bhagata chinmayate bhagata vanabuya. That the nature of the true self, you and me, is we have no birth and we have no death. We cannot be cut into pieces by weapons. We cannot be moistened by water. We cannot be burned by fire. We are Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. And what is the nature of that bliss? Anandam Mudivaradanam Pratibadam Pudamrita Swadanam. This chanting of the names of the Lord awakens an ecstasy from within us. The ecstasy of the love that is within our heart. The eternal, unchangeable love of God that is within every single one of us. It is simply covered by forgetfulness. Nitya Siddha Krishna Parama Satya Kadunai Saravanani Sudhichati Kuriyandoy. That this love for God, for Krishna, is within the heart of every living being. By chanting these beautiful mantras, by associating with people who inspire that love, it is awakened, it is uncovered, it is the treasure that we're all looking for. It is the happiness that we all seek. We're seeking for it in so many different places. Like the analogy of the musk deer of the Himalayas. The deer has musk as an organ somewhere near its navel. And it smells so intoxicatingly fragrant. If any of you have ever smelled real musk, not the manufactured imitation musk, the real thing, it's an extract. You don't have to kill the deer. It's an extract. And it costs $40,000 a kilo. That's about $20,000 a pound. Very nice. And the deer is smelling it, and he doesn't have to pay anything, because it's within him. But the deer is so foolish. The deer is thinking, I have to find it so I can really enjoy it. And the deer is searching everywhere. He's looking behind thorn trees and getting all cut up. And he's going to other animals and they bite him and kick him. He's trying to find it in trees. He's trying to find it. He's roaming around the forest his whole life looking, where is this fragrance coming from? It's within himself. And that's human life, encapsulated. We're all looking for pleasure. Anandamayo vyashat. But the pleasure we're looking for is within ourselves. Within the inherent potential prema, love of God. That is our nature. And we've forgotten the nature, we're looking everywhere. We're trying to find it in him, or in her, or in it, or in that. Trying to find it in fame, in prestige, trying to find it in sex, trying to find it in romance, trying to find it in television, in radio, trying to find it in fashion, trying to find it in the mirror, trying to find it everywhere. And when we just can't seem to find it everywhere else, we try to find it in intoxications, in alcohol, in drugs. And it's incredible how the human mind, diverted from its true purpose, can create the most incredible, unbelievable varieties of ways to try to find what's not there. Our beloved Guru Prabhupada, he said, Maya means that which is not. We don't know who we are, and we don't know what anything really is, unless we understand ourselves. So this beautiful music that Srila Prabhupada was talking to the Beatles about, yes, you are enchanting the whole world with your music. Krishna is the supreme enchanter. God is not only a very old grandfather that awards and punishes people. If you were God, would you want to do that all the time? Srila Prabhupada explains that there was I think it was a German man, and he came and he traveled around India for years. And he came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he said, I've come to the conclusion that God is one, but the highest conception of God is Krishna. Because all the other aspects of God are punishing and doing work and creating and maintaining and destroying and all that stuff. Krishna's just playing his flute. He's simply enjoying. You do that. He's the supreme enjoyer. He's Rasa Vihari. But what is that enjoyment? Like the sun is emanating infinite sun ray forever. So the Supreme Lord is emanating infinite love forever. And in the spiritual world, those who are awakened souls who open their hearts to receive that love are simply bathing in the ecstasy of God's love. And their own hearts reciprocate with all their love. And how beautiful. Krishna tells in Gita, whatever is attractive in this world is only a spark of my splendor. And we know how these little sparks can agitate us and infatuate us and control us. People go mad after these little sparks of pleasure. The greed of the world for money, the greed in the world for romance, the greed of the world for power, the greed of the world for health. We all simply want to find happiness somewhere. Srila Prabhupada was walking along the Pacific Ocean and there was a sunrise. It was a beautiful sunrise. And the devotee said, Guru Maharaj, isn't it a beautiful sunrise? Srila Prabhupada smiled. He said, yes, it is a beautiful sunrise. But if you like the art, you should see the artist. This is only a spark of the splendor of the Lord. We see how a little bit of beauty, and beauty is so relative in this world. It's like yesterday I was looking at a cockroach crawling. And I was just meditating on this cockroach. Swamis do all kinds of strange things. And what is it that this cockroach and me have in common? And I found so many things. He's just looking for pleasure. And I was thinking, God, I wouldn't want to be a cockroach. But then I saw a male cockroach walk by. And that male cockroach, he was absolutely fixed in infatuation on that female cockroach I was looking at. Now, I'm a Swami, I'm not supposed to look at females, but I didn't know she was a female. But you can tell by the way they come together which is which. At least I think so. So what is beauty in this world is so relative. According to our conditioning, according to who we think something or someone is beautiful. The fact is, for that female cockroach, your husband is like a horrible monster. Even your wife is like a horrible monster. And for us, we look and we think they look like little tiny monsters. But everything is relative. Or what is the absolute beauty? Whether we're a cockroach, or whether we're a snake, or whether we're a lion, or a tiger, or a human, whether we're black, or white, or red, or yellow, or orange, or whatever color we may be, whether we're male, or female, or Eastern, or Western, or educated, or uneducated, we are all eternal souls. The soul is sacred. The soul is part of God. Mamayavam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna says, every living being is my part. A spark of my own, ever-existing, blissful nature. And therefore the nature of all life is to love God, to be attracted to God. Because God's beauty, God's knowledge, God's fame, His strength, His charm is unlimited. And the female aspect of God, Sri Radha, is all attractive to Krishna. The love between the male and female aspect of the Absolute, Radha and Krishna, Sitaram, is the ultimate, supreme, all-encompassing, complete love. And the nature of the soul is to be a part of that love. It's something we all have in common. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani kabihastini suni chaiva swapake cha pandita samadarsha. To whatever extent actual prema, spiritual love awakens within our heart, to that extent, our love for God will extend to every living being. Because every living being is part of God. Because God is within everything. Krishna is all attractive. So we are all looking for that higher taste, and without it we get in so much trouble. Yesterday I gave an example of how the mind is like a monkey. Should I tell it again?
Yes. Yes.
It's a personal lesson that I witnessed. I'm going to go back to 1950. Somehow or other, this eternal soul took birth in this body to my mother and father. And when they conceived me, they did not know what was going on. But somehow or other, conception was there, and they didn't have any master plan or engineering firm deciding how the different technical systems of my body would develop. It just happened. All of a sudden, little eyes and little ears and little hearts and little lungs and kidneys and nervous systems and feet and toes and eyes. All these little things started just growing. What a miracle. Everywhere we look is a miracle. Now we talk about how the world is overpopulated. It's overpopulated with miracles. Because if you just, anybody you look at, any creature you look at, you just think, that person began as a little tiny, probably kind of a slimy little seed, yes, that just kind of travels between the mother and the father. And even if you looked at it with the best possible microscope in the world, you wouldn't recognize what was going to come. And by some miraculous power, we can hear, we can see, we can dance, we can become self-realized. It's amazing. Anyways, when I left home in 19 for a summer vacation with the promise that I would come home after 2.5 months to continue college, my parents really didn't want me to go. But this was the 1960s and I was a teenager. And that wasn't a very serious consideration. But then I never came home. I got letters from me from Iran that I decided to continue the college of life. Instead of going back to Miami-Dade Community College, I was going to attend the college of life. And I'm hitchhiking to India, and my friend is no longer with me. And I thought they would be so proud of me. But they were miserable. And I didn't want to hurt them, but I just had to do what I had to do. And they couldn't understand. They were getting these letters from the caves of the Himalayas, where I was explaining the beauty of life, studying the leopards and the poisonous snakes, and living in the stone floors of caves, and the jungles of the mountains. I thought they would think this is really cool. But they thought it was totally insane. They went to the ambassador of India and said, "You have to find my son." He said, "Where is he?" He said, "He's in the, look at this letter." He said, "He's in the caves of the Himalayan mountains. We'll never find him." "I'm sorry, I can't help you." So anyway, he says, "Oh, it's quite a strange story." But they could never figure out really what I was doing. And then in 1989, they came to India for the first time. And they became so proud, they became so happy. They said it was the happiest moments of their whole life. They were crying every night in joy, and they were dancing. I couldn't believe it. I was leading kirtan, and my parents were dancing and singing and weeping in happiness. It was like some surrealistic painting or something. But then, when they met so many people, and they were so charmed, and so deeply moved, and we wanted to show them some of the more historical parts of India. So I took them to an island called Elephanta. Has anyone here ever been to the Elephanta Island? Please raise your hand. It's only about an hour ferry ride over the Arabian Sea from Bombay. If you want to ever go there, there's boats from the Gateway of India that goes there. So my parents, we went, they got off, we started walking through a forest to these caves where there's ancient statues, carvings that are, I think, 1,000 years old. And as we're walking, a monkey jumped right in front of my mother. Monkeys are very intelligent. They know exactly what they want and how to get it. Why did the monkey jump in front of my mother instead of my father or me? Because she had a purse. And that purse had everything of value of both my mother and father. Their passports, their visas, in those days their airline tickets, all of their cash, all of their credit cards, and everything else of value was in my mother's purse. The monkey looked at my mother right in the eyes. Her eyes were brown, his were green. Her eyes were scared, his were ferocious. He gazed at her, he glowered at her like, "I am going to destroy you." And their eyes locked. And then he showed his teeth. Really showed his teeth. It was a mad monkey. He was big too. And his teeth were pointed and sharp. And after showing his teeth really big, then he screeched. You're laughing, you're so My mother and father were really scared. I'm a pretty useless monkey. And then he grabbed her purse. And she desperately clung to her purse, and she pulled it from him, and he pulled it from her, and she pulled it, and he pulled it, and she pulled it, and he pulled it, and she pulled it, and she said, "Help me, help me." And I know that this monkey's going to tear any of us apart unless we have a stick. So I ran to get a stick. And I came back with a stick, and he saw me coming with a stick, and he said he understood. He only had a couple more seconds do his heist. And my mother would not let go of that purse, and then the monkey just screeched really loud, and with his fangs and mouth open, he leapt right toward her face, as if he was going to bite her nose off. And ladies don't want their noses bit off. Especially ladies from the suburbs of Chicago. So she let go of the purse. And the monkey ran about a block away. And I was chasing after him with a stick, and the monkey was much faster than me. And he climbed up a tree and went way up into a branch and had the purse right in front of him. He was opening it. And he just looked at me like, now what am I supposed to do? But my parents looked at me like, you're the one who brought us here. Everything we have is in that purse. It would have, can you imagine how much it would have destroyed their trip to India? So I must tell you what I did. I prayed. I prayed, Krishna, please help me. You're not supposed to ask material things for Krishna. I just prayed, Krishna, please help me. I didn't ask for any material thing or anything like that. Whatever way you want to help me, but I need help. So I happened to see, after I made that prayer, that about half a block away in the forest, there was this little guy sitting with a little cart with some fruit. He was a fruit vendor. So I ran up to him and asked him if I could take a banana. And he didn't speak English, I didn't speak his language, and he started telling me how many rupees I had to pay. But all our rupees were in my mother's purse, and the purse was in the hands of the banana. I mean, the monkey in the tree. So I argued with him, and he wouldn't accept, so I stole his banana. And he was screaming at me, and I just took it away. Sometimes in emergencies we have to do things we wouldn't ordinarily do. And I ran over to that monkey and under the tree, and he looked up at me and he saw the banana. And I saw he was attracted to the banana. So I threw it up. And I threw it and it went up. I was really hoping it would get close to the monkey. And I wasn't such a good shot. But it was close enough so the monkey had to really reach over to try to catch it. And by doing that, he let go of the purse. Please clap. Yo, whoever we are, we need some encouragement. So I ran back. The monkey was absolutely happy. He was peeling that banana and eating it and eating it and eating it, and I could just see he was absolutely everything he wanted, he got. And I gave the purse to my mother. And my mother said, she took out some rupees from her purse and said, pay the fruit vendor. I forgot all about that technicality. And I ran, and she gave me enough for probably 20 bananas. And I gave it to him, and he was really happy. So the monkey was happy, the fruit vendor was happy, my mother and father were happy, and even I was happy. And they were so proud of me. My mother said, that was the most intelligent thing I've ever seen you do. And my father said, how did you know how to do that? That was brilliant. I was happy. And when I came home some months later, everyone was, my relatives, parents, friends, everyone was telling me about how my parents were so proud of me for tricking the monkey. Now, why am I telling this really weird story to you? Here I am in a temple with all scholarly, intelligent people telling stories. The name of God is not different than Krishna, and God has many names. Why are we not tasting or chanting in kirtan, in japa, and the monkey of the mind, jumping here and jumping there? Reminds me of a song, but I'm not going to sing it. It's jumping here and jumping there and jumping everywhere. Distraction. We go to work, we're driving in the car, we're listening to some nice CD of spiritual lecture, and then we see some billboard and we're distracted. So many distractions. But this beautiful music, this beautiful mantra, this beautiful kirtan is the most powerful and the most pleasing way of experiencing the higher taste, of tuning in to the frequency of God's grace, of the all-attractive, all-beautiful grace of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada was explaining these principles to the Beatles. And George Harrison took it very seriously. He wrote that song, My Sweet Lord. And he had tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people worldwide enjoying listening to the Hare Krishna mantra. Yes. He did it in such an expert way, inspired by this simple conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Let me take this incredible, blessed talent of music and use it to uplift people's consciousness in the highest way. And he told my dear friend Shyam Sundar Prabhu that he got sued for that song because some other group from the 1960s, the early 60s, made a song that had some of the same melody in it. So they took him to court. What a world. And he said it was the most difficult lawsuit he ever had to deal with. And he had to give a lot of money. But he said, still, it was the greatest fulfillment of my life. Because I gave the world my heart more than any other time. My love for God. Sometimes there's a small price to do great things. And he said, before that, he said the greatest time as a Beatle, George Harrison, he played at Shea Stadium to a packed out house. They were their concerts, their records, it was just unbelievable what happened to them from those four little guys from Liverpool, England. But he said the greatest happiness in his whole career was when he turned on the television and he saw the devotees that were his friends singing Krishna's names on the top of the Pops television show. And he helped him to get there. He found more happiness that than all of his success. because he was touched in his heart by a saint, Srila Prabhupada, who actually gave him that higher taste, the higher taste of compassion. And that is what real society of humanity is truly in need of. Technology, science, these things are all good to the extent that we're good. Anything, if it's in the hands of a person who's egoistic and selfish, we could use it for destructive purposes. A knife is a neutral thing. In the hands of a thief, it's used to kill. In the hands of a doctor, it's used to save a life. Is the knife good or bad? Its value is only according to who's using it. Science, technology, skills, intelligence, education. If we have good character, if we have compassion, if we have God's love, then all these things are beautiful and beneficial to all. But without it, look at the pollution, look at the disease, look at the greed, even in the name of religion. Religion is a powerful thing that can influence people in powerful ways. But people with impure hearts can use that which is meant to create love to create hate. That which is meant to create compassion, to use it for terrorism, war. Lord Chaitanya, he explained that a great personality is like a tree with many fruits. When a tree has many fruits, because of the weight of the fruits, the tree bows to everyone. But a tree that has no good fruits keeps its head up very high, doesn't bow to anyone or anything. So the person who actually has good character is the Mani Namanadena, is eager to offer all respect to others and expect none in return. And a person who doesn't really have good character is very much demanding for himself or herself. Therefore we are taught to chant the holy names in a spirit of being a humble servant of servant. Yesterday in New Dwarka we were reading a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada in class. Where Srila Prabhupada was saying there's two types of devotees, Sukama and Akama. One is wanting so many selfish things, and one simply wants to serve as an instrument of the Lord's compassion. And Srila Prabhupada explains that a father is always giving to the children. Yes? Little children, little babies. What do they give to the parents? They kick them. Yes. Sometimes they pass stool and urine on them. Sometimes in the middle of class they start crying like, ah! Mother, and everybody's looking like, get out of here. And the mother has to pick it up and run outside. Yes, very difficult, these babies. Very beautiful, sweet, but very difficult. Mother's love is something that it's very, very pure. A good mother's love. Srila Prabhupada says Krishna becomes the baby of the parents. Because the parents don't ask anything. When you love God as Father, you ask so many things from the Father. Which is good, which is pure, which is super excellent. But even deeper is when Krishna takes the little form of a baby, and the parents, all they want to do is give, and expect nothing in return, just to keep giving. This is the supreme occupation for all humanity. To love God, to serve and love every living being without motivation that is selfishly oriented or any interruption by any situation in this world. This is the banana of love of God. The fruit of love of God. When we taste that, we are forever happy. And we can deal with everything in this world and with a clear mind, with compassion, with love, and see everything as it is. This is why we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And our beloved Gurudev Srila Prabhupada, when he was on that Jalatuja boat, heart attack, seasickness, 70 years old, didn't know if anyone would be there. He didn't pray or anything for himself, even in that completely difficult condition. He only prayed, let me be your puppet, Lord. Let me be an instrument of your grace to give happiness to all these people. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Huh?
Sankirtan.
Oh, sure. We have kirtan now? We will have kirtan. Would you like to sit or dance?
Dance.
Please dance.